What does it take to lead an organization that sits squarely at the intersection of technology, geopolitics, and nearly every other major force reshaping commercial real estate? Our guest today on the Smart Agency Presents GlobeSt Women of Influence podcast is the youngest woman ever to serve as Global President of SIOR, the Society of Industrial and Office Realtors, in its 80-year history. Saadia Sheikh leads the organization of more than 4,000 industrial and office specialists across 52 countries. She's also founder and CEO of Powersense, which is a CRE advisory platform that serves corporate occupiers and investors across U.S. gateway and growth markets. Her career spans senior leadership at JLL, where she headed innovation and technology for the Americas, all the way to advanced studies in AI strategy at MIT and disruptive innovation at Harvard. You guys, this woman knows it all. We are so excited. She's a top producer. She's been recognized as a 40 under 40 honoree. She's a relentless advocate for inclusive leadership in commercial real estate. We are so excited to have the global president of SIOR, Miss Saadia Sheikh. Saadia, welcome.
Thank you, Jen. What an intro.
What a life you've lived. I mean, really, you are the youngest person ever to hold the global president role of SIOR in 80 years. Okay, I have to start by asking you, what does that mean to you?
You know, what it really means to me, and more so means to our membership and organization, is that we continue to lead through performance. So yes, I happen to be the youngest, and there's some other stats there, youngest female and others, but it really is a testament to who we are and who we elect and what kind of leadership we're looking for. So to me, it really made me proud of being a part of the organization that I could also lead within too.
Well, and that speaks so much to the culture of commercial real estate. And I'll say to those who are listening that we get this opportunity to speak with Saadia because she is going to be up on the stage at the GlobeSt Women of Influence conference. That's coming up in July 13th and 14th in Denver. And we're encouraging you to get tickets because Saadia is sitting on the front lines of really everything that's happening that is affecting this industry. Saadia, really the two sectors that SIOR focuses on, industrial and office, these sectors they're going through some things. They are moving through some changes, right? We know that industrial's kind of recalibrating itself. It had some really historic tailwinds for a while, and now it's coming back into hopefully some stability and then maybe growth in the future. And then also office is looking for its new normal. And again, we're seeing pockets of hot activity in New York and other places, but we're also seeing kind of a national narrative of maybe holding on some ideas of weakness. And now let's talk about tariffs and trade and a war. I mean, there's so much happening. So I need to ask you, at the center of it all, here's SIOR, and you guys are built on trust and performance and human relationships. How are you navigating where industrial and office markets are headed? And then how does this performance-based, globally connected community that is SIOR, how does it help you to navigate these forces more effectively?
Well, first, you called it out. I mean, it's been performing. It's unprecedented, the performance. And now what we're seeing is it's kind of normalizing. And with that normalizing comes, oh, what's going to happen now? How's it going to shift? Is it still going to grow? We're always going to have cycles in that area. And then when it comes to office, the human behavior, how people want to work, that is not changing, and it's a constant discovery. So those two asset classes are continuing to shift, and everyone's using the word recalibrate. It's kind of reinventing itself as well, right? So it's just, we're constantly going to continue to see the shifts, but it does differ by geography. It does differ between industry type. And so to dig into that and those trends we've seen been really important for our clients and customers. And then when it comes to SIOR, we represent all size firms, small firms, local firms, mid-size, large, national, global, you name it, and 50 countries. And so with all of that expertise, you talked a little bit about, or you shared about trust. It's because of having that network of being able to pick up the phone and call someone in a market or an area and just have a conversation. Just having a conversation about what's going on, what's happening, what should I be thinking about? I have a client that might be interested, or I'm pursuing some business and I'm trying to understand the market better, what's happening with the office sector, what's happening in the suburbs, things like that. So those simple but really important and powerful conversations happen. They happen by picking up the phone, they happen obviously by email, locally, regionally, at our global conferences. Everyone gets together to do that very same thing. So I think what keeps at least us ahead is being able to just have that connectivity to each other.
It's
Very
so
simple.
powerful. Yeah, it's simple, but it's so powerful, and that's what makes it so interesting because everybody says it's a relationship business, but when you talk about and you said it's all sizes of businesses, this is a built-in network. This is a built-in network of people who understand different pressures at different times in their career, different locales, different regions. People have had this experience, and it's kind of a wealth of knowledge that you can tap into. And when I look at, you mentioned recalibrating that everybody's doing. One of the things I always like to say is I feel like when we look at office and maybe now industrial, although I think for office it was just more of a big boom, if you will, as far as the changing of how people work. I always think of it as, if you have a child and your child's wearing like 6-month-old clothes, and then you take a break from that and you come back and it's a year or two, three later, six, and you try to put that child back into those 6-month-old clothes, that's not going to work. And so what I want to ask you is, this industry is requiring something of its professionals, right? It is requiring the ability to reinvent, the ability to live through what is difficult perceptions and move through. You talked about what the trust of that network brings. What are the individual traits that you see in your members? You don't have to name any, but just overall, what are some of the traits that you see in members of SIOR that allow this recalibration to work and that are actually helping people move forward in the market today?
Well, that's actually really important that you bring that up because it is individual advisory with teams, of course, but what does every individual need to be able to operate in the changing landscape or to advise properly? And what we see consistently over and over is that discipline to be curious, to keep figuring things out, keep asking questions, keep doing the research. It's easy, I think, especially in brokerage, for us to say, oh, we've experienced this, we know it. But there's what we haven't experienced yet. And it's what's to come that we've got to constantly be digging in and curious about and researching and talking to each other so that we can then advise, right? And then advise our clients, the customers, and have those really great insights. And so I would say one of those traits is to not be stuck in what we do know, but really curious about what we don't know or what we need to keep learning and what keeps shifting, which a lot of our network naturally does because we are full of high performers at that level. Different parts of their career, different stages for sure, but definitely high performing. But I like to say that our organization is very team sport oriented, meaning we do connect with each other regardless of what firm we're at and that competitiveness.
Well, and I really pick up on that team sport because I think you're absolutely right. In a team sport, there are individual players who must be at the top of their game. They must have the fitness and the skills that they need individually, but then you must play together. And then I think discipline is such an important word to bring in. I love how you said discipline to be curious because it takes discipline to not trust, what was there before and just go with the status quo. It takes that. Now, I want to jump to a place because when you talk about not going with the status quo and really discipline to be curious, and also this team-led culture where people are trying to perform, but they're needing to do it within an infrastructure of a team, that makes the lights go off in my head. Boy, you are yoing AI, technology. Things are changing so fast. And you sit in a really amazing seat, Saadia, because this is a core part of your personal agenda, your passion. You are really knowledgeable on this topic. I will just repeat that you did the MIT AI and Business Strategy program. You led innovation and technology for JLL Americas. You've written about embracing innovation and technology. So when we're talking about the discipline to be curious and also performing, which is what you talked about, this is about performing. What are the AI and technology shifts from your perspective as a really well-heeled expert What's going to change industrial and office fundamentally in the next 3 to 5 years? And what do SIOR members and members of the Globe Street audience need to know about how to make sure that AI stays both strategic and also more human, not less?
Well, you hit on one of my favorite topics, and it's not AI and technology, it's leadership. And what I'm focused on when it comes to leadership is how we can lead during the time of change, of what's shifting in technology and AI. It's not the AI and technology that's going to change us or sitting back and saying, okay, how is that going to change industrial or office as an asset class? How people occupy space. It's more so how are we going to choose to lead? How are we going to choose to embrace it, utilize it, learn it, engage? And so, really, the change comes from us. And I'm very passionate about it because having been in brokerage and having focused on technology strategy, one of the hardest things I hear from prop tech companies is adoption. Well, why is that? It takes leadership, it takes people to try something, learn something, but more recently at MIPIM, I was on a panel, an industrial panel, and not just talking about infrastructure and power. We kind of shifted it to mindset and people, which was again whether it's technology, whether it's what's happening with infrastructure, power, data centers, whatever it is, it's really who chooses to step up and take that risk or innovate or try something and fail. And others say, okay, that didn't work out. So, okay, then you see someone else try something that they're successful at, a team, an office, a company, where they lead in technology in some area and you see the success, and then others can start to implement and do that and learn from it. So it really takes people stepping up. And that's not just people with titles. That's everyone on the team. That's, different stages of their careers. So I like to say leadership is for all, and it's important for everyone to step into.
I want to ask a big question. Okay. You said this is not just about infrastructure and power. This is about mindset and people, and it takes people stepping up to be leaders. There's something we say at our agency when we are trying to position communications, and it's WIFM. What's in it for me? And I want you to tell me, because what you just said is so passionate about how to be a leader and what is needed from leaders. And I wonder if you could then turn that spotlight to someone who is growing in their career, because you said it doesn't matter about title. What are the benefits of someone who does lean into commercial real estate at this challenging time? The people who do show up and stand up, what's in it for those people, for the women who are going to come and who need to push in and become these leaders to make this next movement of change in this industry?
First of all, it's accessible. We talk about what's not accessible, or we don't see enough women, or we don't see enough leadership. I hear that a lot in our industry and different industry organizations. And the key is, I just want to put the message out there. It is accessible. The opportunities are there. And the repeated proximity to whatever organization, company that you're a part of, that anyone's a part of, will lend them to those opportunities. And so for women at all ages, just being around, being in the room, being at the event, being a part of the organization, that's such a huge step of just being there and being around the opportunities. And obviously, in this challenging time, and any challenging time, there's always opportunities, or there's a way to think about it. So stepping up and stepping in, but then also within that room, within that environment, again, being curious and saying, okay, how could it be done differently? One of my favorite, favorite people to work with are always new people in the industry. Why? Because they have a different lens. They come from different backgrounds, perspectives, jobs. Maybe they're coming out of school, but what they just learned and what they just did at their last job, coming into what we're doing, they always come in with a fresh set of eyes. And then at that point, what they see and what they think or how they perceive it matters. Is there a better way? Well, oftentimes we see, with our newer members of SIOR always come in and have ideas. They have ideas because they're using technology and AI in different ways, or they're testing something within their environments. So, going back to women, take away that perceived wall and focus on the mindset of what's accessible.
And that's so huge because the wall, it is perceived. You're absolutely right. If you just go look it up, there are a million events you can go to. There are so many organizations that you can get involved in. And so I like what you're saying. I had a client tell me this once. It was head of a big commercial real estate fund. And I sat down, and it was during one of the 2020 times that everything was very challenging. And I said, whew, this is a tough time in the market. And he looked at me and he said, Jen, tough times in the market are when the fortunes are made. And I think that's another part of what's in it for me, is that there is a fortune to be made. And I'm going to say it this way. I know that there's money to be made in real estate. We write about it all the time, big deals. But there's a fortune to be made in the relationships and the life and and the reinvention itself. And we see this across companies who have succession events, like a company that grew up with a founder, and then now it's the next generation that's running that brokerage, and they're still going. These are legacy businesses that we are building. And so the work that we're doing, it's growing not only us, but it's growing our community and those around us. So I think that there's a lot of ways we can look at this. Your lens on leadership is a bright one, Saadia. I wonder if I can have you, from your position as president of SIOR, I'd like to get a little meaty. GlobeSt's audience really likes to look at what's happening. And so whether new or old in the industry, you are going to be affected right now by some of the changes that are happening in policy. And I want to ask about some of the bigger concrete implications of some of the recent policy that came through, specifically the Big Beautiful Bill, which passed in 25, and things that I'm aware of, as I know that bonus depreciation has become permanent. Qualified opportunity zones are now permanent. There's a lot of opportunity there. Section 199A is extended, but the 179D energy efficient commercial buildings deduction is actually sunsetting on June 30th, 2026, which is right around the corner. So there's all these, you have industrial developers, office landlords, tenant rep brokers, capital advisors, all of these people that are members of SIOR. What do people need to be thinking about right now in policy and in taxes? How can they reshape these deal economies so that right now performance can crank back up? Because that's what we all want to see, right? What do they need to know in order to make that happen from a policy level?
Again, this is really important. What we're seeing is it's positive to have the bonus depreciation and the opportunity zones. That just spurs incentives, economic impact for sure. And so that is a positive for investment developers and for advisory. So brokerage firms like that because that means activity for tax savings and whatnot. But what's interesting, even about something like the sunsetting on efficiency for buildings, is that that just pushes everyone to push forward and do that before it sunsets, to do any of that work or anything that people had planned to get that done. Now, look, with any policy, it's going to spur people to push forward on something quickly or spurs new activity. So again, for us, all the policy changes that we're seeing are just reasons to focus on what shifts in behavior, not just opinion or action. I think you're really going to start to see behaviors change in how people are deploying capital, how people are, buying and selling assets. And so for sure that gives us all room to be excited about activity, but regardless of the policy changes one way or another, or we see a lot of this geographically. A lot of our members talk about what policies are changing even within their own geography, their state, their markets. And so, really, no matter what, focusing on those policy shifts just kind of shows you where opportunities are or where behaviors are going to change. So, just always something to keep an eye on.
And goes right back to your personal passion, really, of kind of mindset and people, right? Because what I'm hearing is, yeah, there's some policy stuff. It's changed, but in truth, they are markers for either activity's going to pick up because there are deadlines, so that allows you opportunity, or there are new pressures that are evolving that again. The people, the members of SIOR, or those listening to this podcast can all rise to that challenge. Let's stick with leadership then, and what you represent in this industry, Saadia, because again, it's more than, as you said, it's more than a title like just being the youngest or the female. It's what it is it's a global seat and it's a voice. And I want to remind our listeners that Saadia reminded all of it, like it's an accessible seat. She's sitting in it right now. Any woman, any person in commercial real estate can take that seat. So I want to ask, beyond your seat here at SIOR, you also have a company called Powersense that you built from scratch. You rose through JLL, which is a wildly respected organization, and as a top producer. You also personally lead a nonprofit that supports deaf and hard of hearing youth, and you do that through powersense.org. And you've been recognized as an industry leader since like 2015. I mean, just a really long time. And I want to point those who may be listening to your president's message in the recent SIOR report, which is a great read. And you wrote, SIOR has been more than a designation for me. It has been a community that has shaped my career, expanded my global perspective, and given me lifelong friendships. I think this is what I think of when I say you can make a fortune in this industry. So you, Saadia, as you take the stage at GlobeSt Women of Influence coming up in July, what what do you want the women in that room to hear? What do you want them to take away? What did they need to know today that would make them click on that button and say, yeah, I want to join that conversation. I want to show up for that. What do they need to hear from you today, Miss Saadia Sheikh?
What's important to me for everyone to hear is that anything that I share, that somebody in that audience will take something from it that matters to them, that matters to what they're focused on, to what they want to do in their career in life and grow. I learned this early on with speaking, is that it's less about who's on the stage and what they're saying, but more about who's in the audience and what they're going to take and go do with that. So my hope is when we are all in Denver, that whatever I share resonates and that people in that audience will be able to take and go do. And especially it happens to be all women. So that's even more awesome to me.
Sadi, I couldn't agree more. It is such a joy to be in a room with people who are all driven, who are all showing up, and who have experienced pressures from various sides. And again, you bring a technology-enabled, AI-forward, and yet a leading with passion mindset. We're so excited to hear from you. Is there anywhere that our listeners or viewers may want to find you or learn more about SIOR or about your businesses? Where would you direct them?
Absolutely. Well, you have to check out SIOR.com. It's a great network. And then also you can follow me on LinkedIn and at Saadia Ventures.
Fantastic. Guys, please take a moment today and sign up to see us and meet with Saadia and me and all the rest of the wonderful GlobeSt Women of Influence in Denver, July 13th to 14th. To everyone who's out there listening, get your tickets today and use the discount code for savings. GlobeSt Women of Influence is the singular national networking, professional development, and team building event in commercial real estate. Companies from all over the world send representatives to this two-day event to gain deeper insights, make valuable connections, and cultivate new ideas that bring innovation, growth, and deal flow. We'll see you there.